What if the religion you were born into is not the true path? Would you have the courage to search? Think about that question for a moment, not emotionally, not defensively, but honestly. Imagine that you were born somewhere else, into a completely different family, culture, and society. Imagine that your parents followed a different religion, your neighbors followed that religion, your teachers taught you that religion, and everyone around you considered it normal and true. Would you still believe exactly what you believe today? Most likely, your answer would be different. And that leads us to one of the most uncomfortable questions a human being can ask. Do we believe something because it is true, or because we were born into it? None of us chose the circumstances of our birth. We did not choose our parents. We did not choose our country. We did not choose our culture. And for most people, we did not choose our first religious beliefs either. They were given to us before we were old enough to question them. As children, we naturally trust the people around us. If our parents tell us that something is true, we usually accept it. If our community repeats the same belief, we become even more confident in it. Eventually, that belief becomes part of our identity. It becomes something deeply personal. And once a belief becomes part of our identity, questioning it can feel like questioning ourselves. But there is a difference between being born into a belief and discovering a belief for yourself. There is a difference between inheritance and conviction. You can inherit a religion, a language, a culture, a nationality, and a family tradition. But truth itself cannot become true simply because you inherited it. Truth does not depend on where you were born. If something is genuinely true, it should remain true whether you were born in Asia, Europe, Africa, America, or anywhere else in the world. Now, this does not mean that the religion you were born into is necessarily false. That would be another assumption. The point is much simpler. Being born into a religion is not evidence that it is true, and being born outside a religion is not evidence that it is false. If we genuinely care about truth, we have to examine the claims themselves. This is where the real challenge begins. Ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? What are the strongest reasons behind my faith? Have I personally examined them, or have I simply accepted them because I was told to? If someone from another religion gave me exactly the same arguments for their religion, would I accept those arguments? Or would I immediately find reasons to reject them? That question can reveal something uncomfortable about us. Sometimes we are not searching for truth. We are searching for confirmation. We want evidence that supports what we already believe, while ignoring anything that challenges it. We watch videos that agree with us. We read books that agree with us. We follow people who agree with us. And then we convince ourselves that we have investigated the truth. But confirmation is not investigation. A real search for truth requires intellectual honesty. It requires the willingness to say, I might be wrong. Those 4 words can be extremely difficult. We may be comfortable admitting that we were wrong about a movie, a political opinion, a business decision, or even a relationship. But when it comes to religion, admitting uncertainty can feel terrifying. Why? Because religion is often connected to family, identity, community, morality, and our understanding of life itself. Questioning a religious belief can make us afraid of losing relationships. We may think, what will my parents say? What will my friends think? Will people reject me? Will I be considered a bad person? What if I discover something I was never prepared to face? These fears are real, but fear does not determine truth. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark room. You are told that something important is inside, but you are afraid to enter because you might discover something unexpected. You have 2 choices. You can remain outside forever and tell yourself that you already know what is inside, or you can walk in, turn on the light, and find out. Searching for truth is like turning on that light. And perhaps the most important question is not, what if I discover that I was wrong? The deeper question is, what if I never search, and I spend my entire life believing something simply because I inherited it? Think about how many people live their entire lives without seriously examining their worldview. They are born into a belief system, grow up with it, defend it, teach it to their children, and eventually pass it to another generation. There may be nothing wrong with their belief. But if they never examined it, how can they know that they truly chose it? A person can be sincere and still be mistaken. Sincerity is important, but sincerity alone does not guarantee truth. Millions of people throughout history have sincerely believed things that turned out to be false. They were not necessarily dishonest. They simply had reasons that they believed were sufficient. So the question is not whether you are sincere. The question is whether your beliefs can survive sincere examination. If your religion is true, then honest questions should not be your enemy. If your beliefs are correct, then examining evidence should not destroy them. And if a particular belief cannot survive questioning, perhaps it deserves to be questioned even more. But there is another mistake we should avoid. Searching for truth does not mean attacking other religions. It does not mean insulting people who believe differently. It does not mean mocking someone's parents or culture. And it certainly does not mean changing your beliefs simply because another person speaks confidently. Confidence is not evidence. Popularity is not evidence. Tradition is not automatically evidence. And emotion, although powerful, is not always a reliable guide to objective truth. If you want to seriously investigate religion, begin with the biggest questions. Does God exist? If God exists, what is God like? Why does humanity exist? Is there a purpose behind our existence? Has God communicated with humanity? If so, how can we identify genuine revelation? What makes one religious scripture more trustworthy than another? What evidence supports the claims of a religion? What historical evidence exists? And perhaps most importantly, what would count as evidence against your own position? That last question is extremely important. Ask yourself, what could possibly convince me that I am wrong? If the answer is nothing, then you are not really investigating. You are protecting a conclusion. A genuine seeker must be willing to follow evidence wherever it leads, even when the destination is uncomfortable. This does not require abandoning your faith overnight. It does not require making an emotional decision. In fact, serious questions deserve serious research. Read the primary sources, study history, understand context, listen to people who disagree with you, but also listen to the strongest defenders of your own position. Do not judge a religion by its worst followers, and do not accept a religion simply because one of its followers is impressive. Judge ideas by their claims and evidence. And remember something else. Questioning is not the same as rejecting. You can question a belief because you want to understand it more deeply. You can investigate your religion and ultimately become more convinced of it. Or you may discover weaknesses you had never considered. Either way, the search has value because you are no longer simply repeating what you inherited. You are actively asking what is true. Perhaps this is what genuine faith should look like, not fear of questions, but confidence that truth can withstand them. So let me ask you again, what if the religion you were born into is not the true path? Would you have the courage to search? Not to search for a religion that makes you comfortable. Not to search for arguments that help you win debates. Not to search for reasons to prove your family right or your community right. But to search for the truth. What if the truth challenges your assumptions? Would you accept it? What if the truth requires you to change something about yourself? Would you change? What if the truth is different from what you expected? Would you still follow it? These are difficult questions because they force us to separate truth from identity. Imagine that tomorrow you discovered that one of your deeply held beliefs was incorrect. Would you rather know the truth and change your mind, or remain comfortable in a belief that is false? Most people would say they want truth. But wanting truth and being willing to accept truth are not always the same thing. The real test comes when truth costs us something. Maybe it costs us pride. Maybe it costs us comfort. Maybe it costs us relationships. Maybe it requires us to admit that someone we trusted was mistaken. Maybe it requires us to rethink years of assumptions. That is where courage becomes necessary. And perhaps you do not need to be afraid of the search. If there is a creator, and if that creator is truly just and knows what is in our hearts, then a sincere search for truth should matter. Your intention matters. Your honesty matters. Your willingness to question yourself matters. So don't be afraid of asking difficult questions. Don't be afraid to investigate. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Because saying, I don't know, can be the beginning of wisdom. You were born into a particular place, a particular family, a particular culture, and perhaps a particular religion. None of that was your choice. But what you do with the questions you have now, that is a choice. You can simply inherit your beliefs, or you can examine them. You can protect your assumptions, or you can test them. You can search for confirmation, or you can search for truth. And perhaps the most important question of your entire life is not, what religion was I born into? It is this, what is actually true? And once you discover what you believe is true, another question follows, do I have the courage to follow it? So before you close this video, take a moment and ask yourself honestly, if I had been born into a completely different religion, would I have believed that religion just as strongly? If the answer is yes, then perhaps it is time to investigate what you believe more deeply. Not because your religion must be wrong. Not because another religion must be right. But because truth is worth searching for. And if your current beliefs are truly the truth, then an honest search should only strengthen your conviction. The question is not whether you are brave enough to change your religion. The question is whether you are brave enough to question yourself. Because sometimes the greatest obstacle between a person and the truth is not a lack of information. It is the fear of discovering that we might have been wrong. So ask the question, search sincerely, study carefully, think honestly, and wherever the truth leads, have the courage to follow.